Welcome to the Venari Podcast and the next episode in our Biopharma Chief Commercial Officer series. My name is Joe Knight. I lead the commercial function within the life sciences and healthcare practice here at Venari Partners. I'm joined today by Michael Ferguson, who is Chief Commercial Officer at Abivax. Michael's career began in consulting. He spent 12 years at Shire before the Takeda acquisition, followed by a few years at Arena Pharmaceuticals. He joined Abivax in April this year. In the podcast today, we're talking IPOs, taking a chief commercial officer role, and aligning the commercial organization with medical. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the Venari Podcast.
Thank you for the opportunity, Joe.
Great to have you with us. So, Michael, let's start with you. Tell us a bit about your career to date.
Yeah, so I think you nailed it with the intro, Joe. But so kind of took my career initiation in consulting, like you said. Spent majority of my entire career in the pharma, biotech, life sciences industry. In the beginning, it was really more on the commercial operations side, and kind of had this career moment where I decided that I really wanted to get closer to the customer, and took a lateral move over to the marketing side and really kind of grew up in becoming a brand manager at Shire. Ultimately took increasing roles of responsibility through mergers and acquisitions and be able to lead brands and build teams. So I've had the opportunity to lead major gastrointestinal brands, both on the specialty side as well as on the rare disease side of the house, and have had the opportunity to work with a lot of great people and build amazing culture within the organizations that I've had the opportunity to work in. And recently have had the opportunity to work at a number of small companies that are really focused on bringing innovative treatments for GI diseases to launch and to market to help patients. So that's really been a focus of mine over the last few years with both Arena as well as now with Abivax.
Yeah, indeed. And it sounds like there's some exciting things going on at Abivax, not least the recent IPO. So congratulations there. It would be great to understand about your involvement there from a chief commercial perspective.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a reset for the organization at the time of my joining, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Sheldon Sloan, who also joined at that time. And in a little bit, we can talk a little bit about the relationship that we've been able to forge and how we collaborate together for the betterment of the organization. But, from a commercial perspective, really the focus was prioritization and focus for the organization. So Abivax actually has its roots in vaccines. It actually had a vaccine that was targeting HIV therapy. It was effective, but not commercially viable. And through serendipitous discovery, identified an asset, our lead asset, obefazimod, that has an effect in inflammatory diseases. So we reshifted and prioritized our focus in the IBD space, specifically ulcerative colitis, and we've made a strategic decision to focus an additional trial on Crohn's disease. So we wanted to be able to kind of reshift the organization. So what my team and myself obviously was responsible for was contributing to a revised mission and vision and direction for the company. My team specifically drove the rebranding of the organization. So the look, the feel, the how we show up externally with customers, what our external strategy is going to be in terms of positioning for the product. And our team took a really strong leadership role in driving the IPO and the Investor Day preparedness in terms of developing the new and revised corporate deck that's used externally with investors. In addition, we drove the revised kind of Congress presence. So how do we show up in the field of gastroenterology? How do we increase the awareness of Abivax within the GI space? How do we increase the awareness and the differentiation narrative for obefazimod? And then finally, from an internal perspective, we really were focused on building out the commercial capabilities. So launch preparedness, building out that launch plan, identifying what we think is the appropriate opportunity for our asset, building out kind of the payer landscape in terms of how we think the community would be receiving our target product profile in a competitive landscape within the IVD field at the time of launch. So building out all of those capabilities to be able to support our journey towards launch.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been a busy first 6 months and like you've had a lot going on. This is your first Chief Commercial Officer role. Is there anything you've learned over the last 6 months that you think is particularly pertinent since taking that title?
What's interesting is with every role, you learn things along the way. And, so one of the things that I've learned in previous roles is you're only as good as your team. It's really important that you not only attract, but you're also able to retain really good people, and most importantly, empower them to feel like they can own, drive, and lead valuable, meaningful work, and get and build a culture that fosters collaboration, not only within the commercial team, but more broadly within the entire team. And obviously, from a commercial perspective, we work very closely with the medical team, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But really fostering that sense of collaboration and drive. So from a lessons, in terms of the newness to the CCO role, at some point, you have to take a step back and say, okay, it's not just about the what in terms of what we do, because if you hire and you set the pace for a highly performing, capable team, they're going to drive. They're going to go through a brick wall, right? It's also about the how. So a lesson learned, I think, for me, when you think through it, is every organization has growing pains. So there's a change management aspect to bringing people along the journey, as opposed to just driving the journey itself. So I think a lesson learned would be take a moment, pause, make sure people feel like they're a part of it outside of the broader commercial team, and making sure that they're contributing and they feel like they're part of the journey, and then they're supportive of that journey. Because it is, in this instance, it's the next chapter of Abivax, and everyone either that was here before and that is newly here now or will be, we're all on part of that journey together.
You mentioned the relationship you have with the Chief Medical Officer at Abivax for a while. You came to the role, I think, already having a contact with him. How do you go about working with the medical business and aligning the commercial strategy with the medical organization?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate to have developed and fostered strong relationships with medical, the R&D organization throughout my career. But specifically in the last two organizations, I've had the opportunity and really the blessing to have worked with Dr. Sheldon Sloan, who is our Chief Medical Officer and was the lead for etrasimod, when we worked together at Arena. In addition, the head of medical affairs, Chris Rabat, I partnered with him at Arena as well, and he's now the head of medical affairs at Abivax. And it's just a tremendous partnership, a tremendous collaboration, a tremendous amount of respect mutually for what we do. And I think what's important for pre-commercial companies is to understand that it's really critical to have a laser focus on the positioning for the product, the strategic priorities and imperatives for the organization, and a focus in terms of how we're going to allocate resources accordingly. So obviously the commercial team supports the launch preparedness, the opportunity evaluation, the strategy, where we place our bets accordingly, how we think, the product, is best positioned in the market. And it's completely appropriate and critical that we align with our medical teams in terms of what is the use case for the product, and ultimately what do we have to do to show and differentiate and get people to build awareness or to gain awareness rather, to be able to then learn about our assets. So we align on the strategic level. We set forth the priorities for the organization, and specifically the commercial and medical, the North Star for the product. And then each team then develops their own specific objectives and key results, and holds each other accountable to do so. So each team kind of has their own kind of marching orders, but then we share information back and forth such that for the benefit of each team to respectively execute against their strategic discipline.
Yeah, indeed. No, it sounds like a great relationship that you have with medical there, and one that is going to further the aims of the organization quite significantly. You talked earlier about fostering great relationships with your team to encourage high performance. What are the key things you think about here when you're helping teams develop and grow and motivating them?
Number one, it's all about identifying the people that you think can not only contribute but also grow, and also to be able to partner and to collaborate. I think all of us can look back on moments in their career when they identify people that are more of the I people. I did this, I accomplished this, I drove this, I expect this. And those people, can be very successful. What I've been experienced, at least exposed to and gained experience along the way, is those people aren't the best team players. It's really important that you identify people that really work well together and that think, how can I help? How can I fill a gap? Because at a small company, for example, I have a team of amazing, like 6 high performer type people. They now work so well together because they anticipate what the next question that we're going to have to answer down the line. And they are filling gaps for the medical organization or for the IR function. They're reading things, they're anticipating, and they're being able to support the broader functional teams in ways that honestly extend the value of the commercial team. And I think when you think about a commercial function in a pre-commercial setting, we're really the drivers of the strategy for the organization, and we support the insights and the intelligence to pressure test that strategy, but ultimately to execute that strategy in collaboration with the partners in the organization.
Okay, finally, I'd like to ask you to think about this new role that you've taken as Chief Commercial Officer at Abivax. Whether you have any advice for executives who are thinking about becoming a Chief Commercial Officer. They might be a long way away from that. They might be closer to it. Is there anything you think you did that meant that transition was more straightforward?
You're only as valuable as your team. So it's really super, even, especially in a small company, but especially for someone that's new in the role. It's really important that you hire, focus, build up, empower that team, because they're an extension of you in that capacity. And then the other kind of suggestion for someone that's new in the role, obviously there's different functions throughout a leadership team. I think it's really important to understand what each person on that team and that function is doing, what's important to them, how we can better support them, and whether it's really critical that I meet with the chief scientific officer on a recurring basis. It may not be important to them because they are heavily focused on the R&D side of the equation. It's important for us to establish and maintain those relationships, because there's going to be a time when our team needs something from them and their team needs something from us. And the easier that you have developed that working relationship and maintained that line of communication, it only helps you, when challenges arise. And as we know, there's always growing pains for organizations throughout the course of its journey. And building and establishing relationships outside of your function is critical to the success of an organization.
Okay, Michael. Well, look, thanks so much for joining the Venari podcast. Some great insights there, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the opportunity.